Hello everyone, JD here, and welcome to this week's Talking News. As we come towards the end of August, I hope you have all had a really lovely summer and have been able to enjoy some of the sunshine, spend time with family and friends, or simply just take things at a slightly gentler pace. Newport and communities across the Isle of Wight have once again been full of life throughout the summer, and it's been wonderful to see so many local organisations, volunteers and residents coming together. Here at Sight for Wight, we have continued working with partners across the island to improve accessibility, raise awareness and ensure experiences and voices of blind and partially sighted people remain at the heart of local services and decisions. We're now especially excited because our regular activities return in full swing next week, and we know how important these groups are, not only for keeping active but learning new skills, trying something different, and also for friendship, conversation, and feeling connected to others. So whether you're returning to a familiar activity or thinking about joining us for the first time, you will be receiving a very warm welcome. And there's also lots of events and outings and social opportunities to look forward to throughout the autumn, with more information being shared very soon. It'll be wonderful to see familiar faces returning and to hear Millbrook House filled with conversation and laughter once again. So thank you as always to our members, volunteers, staff, trustees and supporters. We're really looking forward to seeing you all again next week. Take care.
Here is this week's charity news for the 28th of August 2026.
We reopen Millbrook House on Tuesday for all our normal activities and groups starting on Tuesday at the Old Smithy, Godshill, starting at 10:30 a.m. for the monthly morning. Everyone is very welcome, and our wonderful volunteers Yvonne and Linda will be on hand to chat with.
Tandem biking is on a Tuesday along the Cowes cycle track. If you would like a go on a tandem, please do not hesitate to call the office and we can arrange a suitable time.
Yoga is due to restart in September at Millbrook House on a Tuesday at 2 p.m. If you would like to join the group, please call the office and ask for more details. The group will only restart if we have enough members wishing to attend.
Coffee and chat is on Wednesday starting at 10 a.m. until 11:30 a.m. The cost is £2 to include drinks and cake. Staff are on hand to help with any queries and to demonstrate equipment.
Mix and Mingle is on Thursday at Millbrook House. This group enjoys crafts, quizzes and entertainment. If you would like to put your name down on the list, please call the office.
Living Well with Sight Loss session is on Friday the 4th at Millbrook House. Please call Karen for more information.
A date for your diary. Swimming resumes on Monday the 7th of September at Medina Leisure Centre, and walk and talk will be on Friday the 11th.
Our scheduled catch-up and feedback session was on July the 22nd but was cancelled due to having suppliers in. We have rescheduled it for Wednesday the 9th of September at 11 a.m. during coffee and chat. This is an opportunity to let us know your views on our services and any activities or things you would like us to do for you. Please come along, but if you are unable to, please feel free to call the office and let us know your views and ideas so we can discuss it at the meeting.
September we'll be holding our RID the White sponsored cycle ride. Staff, volunteers and members will clock up the miles and be displayed within the hallway at Millbrook. If you or a family member enjoy cycling, please ask them to get sponsorship or maybe suggest they ride to work one day and donate their travel money. If you would like a sponsor form, please call the office and we can arrange for one to be sent to you.
Our annual short story writing competition is now live, and this year the theme is love, hope and courage. Adult stories should be between 1,500 and 2,000 words. Children's stories 12 to 17 age up to 750 words, 8 to 11 years up to 500 words, and under 8 up to 250 words, and pictures can be used. For more details or for an entry form, please call the office and speak to Chris. This could be your summer project whilst the activities are on a break, or encourage grandchildren and family members to enter. Lots of lovely prizes on offer.
This is Alison reading an article from the Island Echo entitled Bembridge Built Islander Begins Testing Ahead of September Flight. The first Islander to be fully built in the UK since Britten-Norman repatriated production to Bembridge has begun its ground test programme, with the first flight targeted for September. Delivery to the Falkland Islands Government Air Service (FIGAS) will follow completion of flight testing and customer preparation, and the company is opening its production line to customers and media ahead of the aircraft's formal launch later this year. The aircraft was rolled out at the company's Isle of Wight facility on Thursday the 30th of July, the day after electrical power was successfully applied for the first time. The rollout followed the installation of the aircraft's engines, propellers, cowlings, electrical systems, brakes and flight control surfaces and mechanisms, and came in sequence with the programme's previous public milestones. 75% structural completion confirmed in June, power on 29th of July, and rollout the following day. The aircraft is the first Islander to be fully assembled through Britten-Norman's reshored UK production line, marking the return of complete civil Islander manufacturing to the United Kingdom, following a period in which major assemblies were manufactured overseas prior to final assembly in the UK. Behind this aircraft, the production line is already at work. A second airframe is progressing through the line. Components for follow-on aircraft are in manufacture, and the company is establishing a continuous production cadence at Bembridge, supported by investment in new machinery, tooling and facilities, and a workforce that has grown by more than 40% since production was reshored. The new-build aircraft retains the qualities that have kept Islanders in service worldwide for more than 5 decades. Low operating costs, rugged reliability, and unmatched short-strip performance, now delivered through more modern manufacturing methods and tooling. This aircraft is built to the same standard its operators have always relied upon, an airframe with a proven track record of 50 years of service life. Dwayne Stewart, General Manager of the Falkland Islands Government Air Service, said, "We're delighted to see this new aircraft taking shape and look forward to welcoming it to the Falkland Islands. We're incredibly grateful to Britten-Norman for their continued support and the strong relationship we have built over the decades. This new Islander will be a valuable addition to the FIGAS fleet and help us to continue providing an essential service to our community for years to come." The rollout of this aircraft is a hugely significant moment for the whole Britten-Norman team, and we want to share it, said Richard Milne, Chief Operating Officer at Britten-Norman. To see the first Islander from our repatriated UK production line come together, from producing and sourcing the many parts to rollout, is testament to the skill and commitment of everyone at Bembridge. We are now firmly focused on completing ground testing and preparing for first flight. The line is running, a second aircraft is taking shape behind this one. Customers and media are very welcome to visit Bembridge and see the aircraft and the production line for themselves ahead of the formal launch later this year. Peter McKenna, owner of Air Arran, said, Having been an Islander operator for more than 56 years, we are thrilled to see new Islanders coming off the line at Bembridge. Nothing rivals the rugged reliability of the Islander, and our fleet is testament to that. We look forward to continuing our relationship with Britain Norman for many more years to come.
This is Brian reading an item from Isle of Wight Radio. CCTV images issued after Ryde supermarket theft. Police have released CCTV images of two women they want to speak to following a shoplifting incident at a supermarket in Ryde. More than £260 worth of groceries were stolen from Tesco Extra on Brading Road at around 6 p.m. on Saturday the 22nd of August. Hampshire and Isle of Wight Constabulary is asking anyone who recognises the women pictured or who saw anything suspicious in the area at the time to come forward. The first woman is described as white and in her early 40s. She has blonde hair and was wearing a denim jacket, glasses, and white shorts with black stripes and was carrying a black bag. The second woman is described as white and in her late 20s or early 30s. She has blonde hair with brown roots and was wearing a blue crop top, black shorts, and sunglasses. Anyone with information is asked to call 101, quoting reference 442 603 52966. Information can also be submitted online through Hampshire and Isle of Wight Constabulary's website. Alternatively, information can be passed anonymously to Crime Stoppers on 0800 555 111. Police are reminding businesses to make sure CCTV and security equipment are working properly and that suspicious activity is reported and recorded. Shoplifting incident should be reported to police on 101, while crimes in progress should be reported by calling 999.
This is Erin reading an article from the Island Echo. Donkey duo Daphne and Geraldine bring smiles to the Orchard House. Residents at Orchard House enjoyed a very special visit from Daphne and Geraldine, two donkeys from the Isle of Wight Donkey Sanctuary. The Bluebell Garden was filled with excitement as residents and members of staff came to meet the two gentle visitors. Everyone had the opportunity to stroke the donkeys, spend time with them, and enjoy this memorable experience. Following the visit, Orchard House has decided to adopt and support two donkeys from the Isle of Wight Donkey Sanctuary this year. Residents will be involved in choosing which two donkeys the home will support, with their names will be to be revealed soon. Emma Sutton, Deputy Manager at Orchard House, said, "It was absolutely wonderful to welcome Daphne and Geraldine to Orchard House. Seeing our residents, their families and team enjoying such a special experience together was fantastic. The donkeys brought so many smiles to everyone. We are also excited that our residents will choose two donkeys for Orchard House to adopt and support this year. It gives us a lovely connection with the sanctuary and doing something for our residents to be involved in looking forward to. Orchard House would like to thank you, the Isle of Wight Donkey Sanctuary and its team, for making such a special and memorable occasion."
This is Alison reading an article from Isle of Wight Radio entitled Police Dog Tracks Down Missing Man on Isle of Wight. A police dog has helped find a vulnerable man who became trapped in thick brambles on the Isle of Wight. The search began in the Rookley area after concerns were raised for the welfare of a man in his 80s. He had reportedly appeared confused and was shouting for help while temperatures reached the high 20s. After a member of the public stopped to speak to him, the man was unable to communicate coherently and then wandered away. Police dog Bella and her handler PC Gemma Johnson were brought in to assist with the search. Bella picked up a scent and tracked the man for almost a mile, leading officers along a bridleway, through woodland and across 3 fields. She eventually led officers to a field beside Long Lane, where the missing man was found in thick brambles in a far corner. He had fallen and become wedged in the undergrowth, leaving him unable to free himself. By the time he was located, he was showing signs of dehydration. The man was rescued and taken to hospital as a precaution. Police have praised the partnership between Bella and PC Johnson, saying their teamwork, including the handler's ability to interpret Bella's behaviour, played a crucial role in finding him.
This is Chris, reading an article from the Island Echo. Cafe comeback. Sainsbury's Newport prepares to reopen eatery. Sainsbury's in Newport is preparing to reopen a cafe within its Foxes Road supermarket, more than a year after the store's former cafe shut its doors as part of a nationwide cuts. A customer notice has appeared inside the Newport store, confirming that work is now underway to prepare the space to open once again as a cafe. The sign apologises to shoppers for disruption and noise expected over the coming weeks whilst the work takes place. A source at Sainsbury's Isle of Wight has told Island Echo that there is currently no confirmed completion date, but it is hoped that work will be finished in early November. It represents a turnaround for the first floor space, which has been without its cafe since April 2025. As previously reported by Island Echo, Sainsbury's confirmed that its only Isle of Wight in-store cafe would close for the final time on the 11th of April 2025. The closure came as the supermarket giant announced plans to shut all 61 of its remaining cafes nationally and cut around 3,000 jobs. At the time, Labour's changes to the national minimum wage and employers' national insurance contributions meant Sainsbury's had to find an additional £140 million, with the increased costs playing a part in the company's wider cost-cutting decisions. Following the closure, Sainsbury's said it was exploring future opportunities for the space and would keep colleagues and customers updated. Now, more than 16 months later, the latest notice confirms the space is being prepared for cafe use once again. The notice, displayed at the Newport supermarket, reads, "Customer notice. We apologise for any and all disruptions over the coming weeks. Unfortunately, the noise is unavoidable as the space is prepared to open once again as a cafe. Many thanks for your understanding and cooperation at this time." However, Island Echo understands that those at the store are hopeful the work will be completed in early November.
This is Noah, reading an article from Isle of Wight Radio. Private aircraft overturns at Sandown Airport. A private aircraft has overturned at Sandown Airport after landing on the Isle of Wight. Emergency services were called to the airport at around 1:40 on Saturday after the light aircraft came to land and ended upside down. The single-seat Starlet SA-500 was reportedly visiting the island for a day trip. The pilot was able to get out of the aircraft without assistance and was assessed by paramedics. He suffered minor injuries, including cuts and bruises. It is understood the aircraft initially landed safely before a strong gust of wind caught one of its wings and flipped it over. A crew from Shanklin was dispatched by Hampshire and Isle of Wight Fire and Rescue Service, with firefighters making the aircraft safe and dealing with a potential fuel spill. Police and the fire crews later stood down, with firefighters returning to the station at around 2:50.
This is the second part of the Talking News, read by Sam
and Ursula.
We begin with more news items taken from the County Press and the Observer, starting with an article headlined "Suspected Arson Attack." Firefighters worked through the night to save the historic Ryde Town Hall after a fire, thought to be started deliberately, started in the derelict building at around 11 p.m. on Wednesday. The quick response of the fire service almost certainly saved the building in Lynn Street from total destruction. The fire started on the middle floor, with most of the damage affecting the rear of the building. The main fire was extinguished at around 3 a.m, but firefighters remained on the scene. The road was reopened at around 8 a.m. yesterday morning, Thursday. The hall has been derelict for years and local residents have feared for its future. Ryde Neighbourhood Board, RNB, had considered buying it, however last month decided against the purchase. An independent report said, "Expert opinion cautioned that acquiring the building, whose condition is not fully understood, and without a viable plan for its repair and reuse, is a high-risk strategy." The current owner of the building had not permitted internal inspection of the building's condition. RNB are overseeing Ryde's Pride of Place funding of £1 million a year for the next 20 years. A fire brigade spokesman said, "Around 35 firefighters from across the island were called to a derelict building blaze in Ryde at 11:30 p.m. after a large number of emergency calls. Crews from Ryde, Newport, Sandown and Shanklin attended. The fire had broken through to the roof of the building when fire engines arrived. Firefighters tackled the flames using hose reels and jets, whilst the public were asked to stay away from the scene. With the fire under control, the incident was scaled back shortly after 3 a.m. Relief crews from Cowes and East Cowes continued to monitor the building, dampening down remaining hot spots, and firefighters left the scene shortly after 7 o'clock. One crew returned later to re-inspect the building, checking for further hot spots. Police were informed as it is believed the fire was set deliberately. Local councillor Reuben Loke described the fire as a disgusting criminal act and said that a group of youths had been seen entering and leaving the building. He paid tribute to the firefighters and said police are investigating as a matter of urgency.
Hands off our ancient forests. There is a growing shock and concern over secretive plans to install holiday accommodation in a woodland rich with wildlife. Locals and campaigners say Forestry England's plans for mobile glamping cabins in Boldner Forest near Yarmouth threaten nature and increase fire risks. Forestry England said the project would provide low-impact temporary accommodation while supporting conservation and helping people connect with the environment. Nikki Konaki of the West Wide Village Residents Association and Red Squirrel Trust said, "They want people to have access to nature and wildlife, but by putting them there, they're going to frighten off that same nature and wildlife." Until July 2026, Hampshire and Isle of Wight Wildlife Trust leased most of the forest, but Forestry England said both sides mutually agreed not to renew it. The trust said it was sad to be stepping away. Forestry England has partnered with holiday company Unyoked, which plans more than 40 off-grid sites across the UK. 3 caravans are proposed at Boldner, each on a separate site, and sleeping 2 people, with no more than 6 guests in total. Income would support the management of the forest estate, Forestry England said. The units do not need planning permission because the Caravan Sites Act exempts sites, allowing up to 5 caravans. Locals fear the 3 planned cabins could set a precedent for more sites on the island and elsewhere. They also condemned the secrecy surrounding the plans, saying the presentation was given at Shelfleet Parish Council in July, only after residents found out. Kirsten Cuff said, "It's so under the radar, and they're doing it so quietly. For most of the sites, people will not have the chance to protest. Among the main concern is the risk of fire, particularly near the heathland. If the forest burns out, that's it for a generation. You cannot recover this," warned Samantha Powell of the Safe Boldner Forest Group. Steve Ayres, who lives nearby with his wife Sandra, said a fire could put their property at risk. Boldner is home to protected species, including nightjars, red squirrels, and great crested newts. It is also a dark skies area. Samantha said, "When you have people in caravans, they will at the very least be outside, talking, eating, and drinking. At worst, they will be playing music and partying, which will threaten these species." Forestry England lists protecting and enhancing forests, wildlife and landscape as one of its responsibilities. Royal Tyrrell from Shelfleet said plans go against the principle. Opponents fear vegetation and trees could be cleared to make way for the cabins and improve the view for guests, destroying habitats. Nicola Saunders said, "If we don't protect the animals and the plant life, who is going to do it? They have no voice." A Forestry England spokesperson said cabins would have ecologically sensitive features and meet fire safety requirements. Our proposal at this location would not allow barbecues, campfires, and outdoor cooking equipment, and the accommodation would have all relevant safety features in place. Planning discussions have taken place with the relative bodies. Ecology rules and regulations are also being followed in line with all the appropriate requirements. Hampshire and Isle of Wight Fire and Rescue Service said it was unaware of any consultation requests. Should an application be submitted for consultation, we would consider the proposals through the appropriate consultation process and raise any fire safety concerns identified.
Dental surgery bid withdrawn. A bid to install a much sought-after NHS dental practice on the first floor of a Conservative club has been withdrawn. James Hilson, Shanklin Conservative Club manager, said he was advised by an estate agent that prospective tenant Dental Well had decided to hand back the NHS dental contract awarded to them. The Isle of Wight Council previously approved James Kingham's plans to convert the underutilised space above the private members' bar on Palmerston Road, Shanklin, into a facility with 6 surgeries. Mr. Hilson said reasons the club were given for the withdrawal included recent changes in personal health circumstances and also the ongoing difficulties of NHS dental practice. This news was understandably disappointing for our club members and for the wider Bay Area community, as we know very many people welcomed an NHS dentist coming to Shanklin, and we had done all we could to facilitate this, he said. This was also disappointing news for the club, particularly given that much had been done to assist the prospective tenant and we were only days away from signing the lease. Mr. Kingham's agent, Nova Architectural, previously told the council the proposal would provide a much sought after and needed facility.
Empty 2.2 million home can now welcome residents. A 2.5 million care home has finally welcomed its first residents, 5 months after it officially opened. After the county press revealed Lakeview Blackwater remained empty despite an ongoing care crisis, the home said it was granted the go-ahead. Residents could not move into the former Blackwater Mill until the Care Quality Commission approved it. The Isle of Wight Council could not commission or provide care and support there either. Lakeview manager Jessica McGovern said approval was granted last Friday and the 54-bed home has received its certificates, allowing residents to move in from Monday. The news will come as a welcome boost to families on the island whose loved ones are waiting for care home places, with some relatives moved to the mainland because of the bed shortage. Jessica told the county press, "As manager, I cannot put into words what this moment means to me and to our entire English Oak team. This is so much more than the opening of a care home. It represents a commitment to our island and to the people who call it home, a commitment to providing a place where people can feel safe, valued, respected, and genuinely cared for." Provider English Oak Care Homes bought the home for $2 million last year, invested $2.5 million up to upgrading it. The first residents were due to move in May. Jessica continued, "For families, we hope Lakeview will bring reassurance and peace of mind, knowing that their loved ones are being cared for with kindness, dignity, and compassion within their own community." She said, "Opening Lakeview is a proud moment for us, but it is also a proud moment for the island. We hope to become not simply a care home, but a valued part of the community, a place filled with warmth, laughter, companionship, and belonging." Before Lakeview, the home was Blackwater Mill, which was rated inadequate after inspections between November 24 and January last year exposed serious fallings in care.
Dog team finds vulnerable man. Police dog Bella and her handler have been praised after helping to locate a vulnerable missing man on the Isle of Wight. Officers were called to the Rookley area following concerns for the welfare of a man in his 80s who had been seen appearing confused and shouting for help as temperatures reached the high 20s. A member of the public stopped to speak to him, but he was unable to communicate coherently and later wandered away. PD Bella, working with her handler, PC Gemma Johnson, was called in and immediately picked up a scent. She tracked along a bridle path through woodland and across 3 farmers' fields, covering almost a mile before entering a field beside Long Lane. The missing man was found trapped in thick brambles in a far corner of the field. He had fallen and become wedged in the undergrowth, leaving him unable to free himself. By the time officers reached him, he was showing signs of dehydration. He was safely rescued and taken to hospital as a precaution. Police praised the determination and skill of Bella and PC Johnson, saying the trust and partnership between them played a crucial role in finding the man.
Fast food giant in bid for license. Fast food giant McDonald's is bidding for a late-night refreshment license for its new restaurant on the outskirts of Newport. County Hall officers have recommended the application for the planned outlet at St George's Way to be granted. The recommendation is for approval with any changes to proposed hours and additional conditions the subcommittee consider reasonable and proportionate to proposed licensing objectives. These include the prevention of public nuisance, crime and disorder, public safety and protection of children from harm. McDonald's is requesting permission for late-night refreshment from Monday to Sunday between 11 p.m. and 5 a.m. The Isle of Wight Council received one relevant representation opposing the application, voicing the disquiet over a potential increase in litter. Concerns also included possible increases in traffic, noise disturbance, light pollution, food odours, and the effect these may have on residents and nearby properties. A council report says that the applicant has confirmed regular litter picks and wider patrols will be in place. Where practical, measures will be put in place to limit noise. The restaurant doors are self-closing and customers will be encouraged to be considerate to neighbouring properties when ordering food and leaving the area. Councillors will consider the application on Tuesday, September the 1st.
Shanklin's Sunny Regatta. Shanklin's annual regatta continues to entertain residents and tempt tourists after 173 years, with a full programme of entertainment, market stalls, beach sports, and a traditional tug-of-war, with support from Shanklin Rotary and medals awarded by Town Mayor Sarah Sheaf. Small Hope Beach, the backdrop for Take That's I Found Heaven, was home to the shore sports with a competitive egg and spoon race, three-legged races, wheelbarrow and sack races that saw a few fallers, and a novelty race won by Fraser McDermott and Mark Biddlecombe for the Neil Cole Memorial Trophy presented by Joe Cole. The events culminated in the tug-of-war with the Shanklin Sharks, a combination of Shanklin Football Club and Shanklin Voluntary Youth and Community Club, retaining the trophy. The afternoon saw the Huxley Magic Show entertain an enthusiastic, multi-generational crowd, while the evening started with live music from Tuesdays, followed by the MLD dancers and the hanging baskets. The event was rounded off by Votes Pedro, celebrating their 10th birthday with a set that entertained and engaged an appreciative audience, more than compensating for the cancellation of the fireworks due to the dry conditions and national alert.
First anniversary for the Daisy Ring bus. Around 350 people, including special guests, were invited to celebrate the first anniversary of the Daisy Ring bus at Northwood House Cowes on Sunday. The volunteer-run community bus transports island cancer patients to Southampton and Portsmouth hospitals from the mainland ports. The bus has originally operated for more than 20 years, but when previous funding came to an end, the community rallied to protect this vital lifeline. Led by Michelle Lequesne Newton, the Daisy Ring Bus Community Interest Company was formed to secure its future, and the response has been nothing short of remarkable. There was musical entertainment throughout the day, and among those attending were the High Sheriff Nigel Hartley and special guest June Ring, who helped to found the original service with the Wessex Cancer Trust. There were market stalls and local traders, with significant funds being donated by local charities, and through a variety of donations and a raffle.
Controversy over school demolition. The planned demolition of 9 Acres Community Primary School in Newport has prompted a warning over the potential blocking of access to a popular recreation ground. Proposals have been submitted to the Department for Education to knock down existing buildings and erect a new 2-storey school. However, County Hall's Public Rights of Way team warned against closing the western access point to 9 Acres Recreation Ground via Nelson Road, which has been used by the public for decades. The team stated, "The application does not appear to retain this access. The service strongly recommends that the local planning authority does not grant approval to the development unless this access point is not only retained, but it is improved for public use." It added that blocking the route would be highly controversial and likely constitute an obstruction of an established highway. The applicant's agent, Vale Williams, said proposals will retain and enhance access points from Southview and 9 Acres Lane. It stated the scheme will deliver a high-quality educational facility without giving rise to unacceptable impacts. Public consultation on the proposal runs until September the 14th. You can make comments via iw.observer/planning-portal.
Choir celebrates 20 years in Paris. Medina Community Choir has returned from a successful week-long tour of Paris, performing at iconic French landmarks and historic churches. 50 members of the island-based choir visited the capital in early August, marking the group's 20th anniversary. Performances included appearances at the Eiffel Tower, the steps of Sacré-Cœur at Montmartre, and 3 churches including St. Sulpice. Choir director Hannah Beer said, "Our choir goes on tour every 2 years, and this year, being our 20th year of singing together, it seemed only right to celebrate in style with a tour to Paris, accompanied by our Orchestra of the Gods, led by James Longford. There were too many highlights to mention them all here, but top of my list would be a 5-minute standing ovation after singing to a packed church at our final concert, singing at the top of the Eiffel Tower, singing in St. Sulpice, and swimming in the Seine. What began as a small school ensemble has grown into a large community choir, with members ranging from teens to those in their 70s. The group performs a repertoire spanning pop, classical gospel, and musical theatre." Hannah added, "Many of our members don't sight read, but that's not a barrier to the high standards we reach. Aside from enjoying the music, singing regularly is a fantastic way to help your breathing and memory, and being part of a community choir is very sociable too." The choir begins its autumn-winter season on September the 3rd, with rehearsals held in Carisbrooke ahead of December concerts. You can find out more about joining by email to the secretary, medinacommunitychoir.org.uk.
Coastal path upgrade planned. A section of the King Charles III England coast path between Boldnor and Yarmouth is set to be improved. The Isle of Wight Council has appointed MCM Construction to carry out the scheme from September the 7th to October the 9th. The project will include widening pedestrian access and improving path surfaces. Vegetation will also be cut back to restore the path's full width and improve visibility, while sections will receive a more durable surface to make the route safer and more accessible. Access between Boldnor Viewpoint and the seafront will also be improved to accommodate pedestrians and future maintenance work. New wayfinding measures will be installed to help walkers follow the route and use upgraded access points. Boldnor Viewpoint car park will close temporarily during the works and be used as the site compound. A section of the esplanade will also close while construction machinery is operating. The council said the work had been scheduled after the summer holiday period to reduce disruption. Rights of Way manager Darryl Clark said, "We appreciate that these works will cause some short-term inconvenience and would like to thank residents and visitors for their patience. The improvements will enhance an important section of the King Charles III England Coast Path, making it safer, more accessible and easier to enjoy.
Island Malay community celebrates Onam Festival. More than 100 members of the island's Malay community celebrated the Onam Festival with vibrant singing and dancing at the Riverside Centre, Newport on Saturday. The Onam is Kerala's ancient harvest festival, which celebrates the legendary homecoming of King Mahabali, a benevolent ruler whose reign is remembered as a golden age of prosperity and equality. According to Hindu mythology, Mahabali was sent to the netherworld by Vamana, an avatar of Vishnu, but was granted permission to visit his people once every year, which Malayalis celebrate as Onam. Over time, the festival evolved from agrarian thanksgiving into a cultural celebration featuring floral designs, traditional dances, boat races, and the grand vegetarian feast known as Onam Satyaya. The venue was transformed into a vibrant showcase of Kerala's heritage, drawing families and well-wishers from across the island. The festivities opened with a traditional theme dance, beautifully capturing the spirit of Onam. This was followed by the ceremonial arriving of King Mahabali, portrayed by Mithun Padamadan, who delighted the audience and symbolized the prosperity and harmony the festival represents. The event was formally inaugurated with the lighting of the ceremonial lamp and attended by Sandown Town Councillor Ian Ward and Shanklin Deputy Mayor Councillor Rajiv Patel. The celebration continued through the afternoon, featuring performances, community interactions, and traditional displays. One of the most anticipated highlights was the Onam feast, served in the traditional way, offering an authentic taste of Kerala's culinary heritage and bringing everyone together in true festive spirit. The celebration was organized under the leadership of Anto Scaria, the convener, Rosanio Bristow, joint convener, Vishnu Tharakhan, secretary, and Faisal Mohammed, treasurer. The event team was Nidhi Beni, Aswathi Pradeep, Aisha Rita, Linda Bristow, Andrea Varghese, Irshad, Aline Stephen, and many more dedicated volunteers who worked tirelessly to deliver a memorable occasion.
East Cowes celebrates second carnival return. East Cowes Carnival returned for a second year after a 30-year hiatus, with crowds lining the streets to cheer on the multitude of floats and entertainers. The Medina Marching Band, formed in East Cowes 50 years ago, was given the privilege of leading the parade, and they were joined by the Vectis Corps of Drums, Fat Samba, and White Diamonds, while the West Highland Pipes and Drums entertained the crowds outside the town hall as everyone waited for the carnival to begin. The new Carnival Company and Shademakers UK delighted the crowds with their colourful costumes, and Ian Rand brought along the tractor which used to pull the East Cowes Queen's float back in the 1980s. Waverley Park Holiday Centre entered the parade and won Best Local Entry. Carnival Chairman Carrie Lacey said, "We're so proud of what we're building together. We also held a fantastic free family fun day in the town hall, with all the acts giving their time and performing for free to help us raise funds for the carnival. There was also a special tribute to Tristan Price, who sadly died in a car accident last January, and we put a cardboard cutout of him on the front of our float. Tristan was a close friend, a well-known Ventnor rugby player and security guard, and someone with a huge love of dressing up and getting involved in carnivals. We're determined to keep building something special for our community, and we're asking people to help to keep donating and supporting us for year 3.
Baby in hospital after suspected assault. 3 people, 2 from Ryde and 1 Shanklin, have been arrested on suspicion of serious assault after a 1-year-old baby was taken to St Mary's Hospital. Hampshire and the Isle of Wight Constabulary said officers were alerted to concerns for the welfare of the child at around 9:30 a.m. on Wednesday. Police have now confirmed that a 26-year-old woman and a 25-year-old man, both from Ryde, were arrested on suspicion of grievous bodily harm. They were also arrested on suspicion of assault, ill treatment, or neglect of a child, likely to cause unnecessary suffering or injury. A 26-year-old man from Shanklin was arrested on suspicion of GBH. All 3 remain in police custody while inquiries continue. No further information has been released.
New marketing role for theatre volunteer. Shanklin Theatre has appointed writer, actor and director Kevin Wilson as its new volunteer marketing manager. Kevin, who is well known to Island audiences, will also be appearing on stage at the theatre next weekend in Ken Ludwig's Baskerville, a spoof Sherlock Holmes production. A former journalist, editor and communications director, Kevin said he was proud to give something back to a theatre and the island he has grown to love. He said, "Shanklin is an amazing success story made possible by the hard work and commitment of an army of volunteers over many years, and it's an honour to have the chance to help the theatre continue to grow and develop. We need to reach out to offer audiences of all ages the chance to experience the magic of live performance here at a time when it is so easy to switch on a streaming service or jab a button on a smartphone." Kevin said it was also important that performers, production companies and those involved in the island theatre scene see Shanklin Theatre as a place to showcase their talents. He is already a volunteer at the theatre and will continue writing and editing the Friends of Shanklin Theatre's FOST quarterly newsletter, Stage Right. FOST chairman Paul Harris said Kevin's new role would help to strengthen promotion of shows, community productions and wider theatre activities. He added, "We're delighted he's joined us. He has a wealth of experience in marketing, media and communications that will be invaluable as we move forward."
Cowes RNLI workers fight centre closure. Striking workers from the RNLI's Inshore Lifeboat Centre demonstrated against job closures at the charity's head office in Poole on Tuesday. The Unite members, who are based in Cowes, took the fight to Poole after they claim an RNI management refuses to come to the negotiating table, despite industrial action. Around 70 jobs are at risk after the RNLI announced it would close the East Cowes Centre next year and move production of the inshore lifeboats to Poole at the end of next year. Unite General Secretary Sharon Graham said the RNLI is choosing profit over retaining its skilled workforce. Not only is it refusing to negotiate with the union, it is now withholding key information that can inform these discussions. The workers also took 2 days of industrial action on the island earlier this month.
And now moving on to the second section, White Memories and Nostalgia, with an article headlined Bizarre Reaction to 1970 Festival. To go down in history is a gift not given to everyone, but 3 brothers from Totland have achieved that honour because of what they did over 50 years ago. They are the Falk brothers, Ray, Ronnie and Bill, who put on the festivals at God's Hill, Wootton and Afton. Their story has entered the history books and will be part of British popular culture forever. Today, no serious history of Britain in the 20th century would be complete without mentioning the Isle of Wight festivals in the chapter marking the 60s. Sadly, most accounts of the festivals, especially the 1971, repeat the same worn-out stories and myths that seem destined to be copied and pasted on the internet for all eternity. Almost always overlooked in these accounts is the remarkable and often bizarre local reaction. The festivals received more coverage in the county press than any other subject in its history apart from the two wars. The county press in those days bears no resemblance to today's paper, and it's fair to say their negative reporting of the festivals was not their finest hour. Ray Falk and the then editor, Ernest Ashe, were in fact former colleagues, Ray having served a 5-year apprenticeship with the county press, a fact never once mentioned within its pages. Although not directly involved in creating any of the ridiculous festival myths, Mr. Ashe was definitely not a fan of the festival, using such phrases as the horizontally inclined work shy and the dregs of society. The coverage of the 1970 festival began in January 1970 with a reader's letter. Just who do these promoters think they are? And why should we be invaded by 250,000 weird fanatics? Also against them was the council, which counted amongst its members 2 admirals, 1 major, 2 rear admirals, 2 brigadiers, 1 commander and 1 sir. These were not men who had fought a war for weird fanatics to do whatever they wanted. One reader pondered, has anybody considered the possibility of an outbreak of typhoid, cholera or even plague? We only want one carrier to get through the net for disaster to hit the island. The festival is a drug market for the peddlers and for many an excellent excuse for one of those permissive orgies one so often hears of.
The Chief Constable of Hampshire thought otherwise. The world's press was present and seemed disappointed that the patrons had been so well behaved. The desire of the press to sensationalize such functions, by overemphasis on drugs and immorality, is to be deplored. It is essential to explode the myth that all patrons of pop festivals are undesirables. The vast majority are decent, well-behaved youngsters, courteous and considerate. In other words, they weren't dangerous, just different. Sites for the festival were not forthcoming, but with just 6 weeks to go, the brothers were offered Afton. But it had a fatal flaw. The adjacent downs offered a free ringside seat. A better site, at nearby Churchill's farm, became an option, but the council gleefully refused permission for the festival to remove there, knowing full well that the brothers would face disastrous ticket sales at Afton. And so it was that between 250 and 300,000 festival goers, less than half of them bought a ticket. Ronnie and Ray were left bankrupt. The festivals weren't designed to be revolutionary. The folks were businessmen first and foremost, seeking to make an honest profit by providing big acts as professionally run events. They were promoters, not activists, and conducted themselves well in their dealings with the authorities. Ray and Ronnie were eloquent performers in debates and must have made frustrating opponents for those with inflexible views, and there were plenty of those. There were complaints about noise and trespassing, but these issues would have occurred if an FA Cup final had been held on the island. But what an event like that would not have generated was the prejudice and vilification heaped on the folks and the festival goers by the island's establishment, aided and abetted by Mr. Ash. Against the odds, Ray and Ronnie made it all happen, and were still discussing their work more than 50 years on because it mattered. They provided a cultural lifeline, giving the island a modern significance much larger than it would otherwise be able to boast. As a location today, it punches well above its weight and is once again synonymous with music. The Isle of Wight is now a global brand, recognized by millions around the world, and all because of 3 young brothers from Totland.
And now moving on to my view with an article headlined "I've called on PM Andy Burnham to visit the island" by Joe Robertson, MP for Isle of Wight East. Being on the Isle of Wight during the summer is special. It is a great place to live, work and visit all year round, but when the sun is shining and the weather as glorious as it has been over the summer holidays, there is nowhere better to be. This summer we have been particularly blessed by good weather, which I hope will have benefited our visitor economy and given at least some relief to our tourism and hospitality businesses who are facing rising costs and red tape. For many young islanders, a summer job is their first experience of the world of work, be that working in restaurants, pubs or hotels, or at one of the many tourist attractions across the island. For the island economy to grow and thrive, and in order to create more opportunities for young people, the additional costs associated with employing young people need to be reduced. The government is largely responsible for bringing them about in the first place, so they are the ones who must now reduce them. Following the announcement by Prime Minister Andy Burnham that he is undertaking a cost of living tour around the UK, I have written to him and invited him to visit the island. It is vital that he understands the particular challenges which we as an island face, from the cost of cross-Solent travel to the additional costs involved with providing the services that our mainland counterparts take for granted, to the increased costs of doing business. I am keen for him to see firsthand the impact which island living has on residents across all areas of our daily lives, and ensure that the Department for Transport finally does something about our ferries' anomaly, namely dependence on private equity groups and their unconstrained ticket prices.
I have also written to the Prime Minister separately to reinstate dementia diagnosis targets and improve support for those living with the disease. My letter was co-signed by over 60 MPs from different political parties. It was good to meet and chat with many people at the recent Garlic Festival at my MP stand earlier this month. One of the many events which take place over the summer, the festival has grown in strength and size and attracts visitors from on and off the island. The fantastic weather, live music and range of stallholders helped attract a particularly good crowd this year. Next month, the first of the long-awaited Cross-Solent Transport meeting is due to take place, convened by the Department for Transport. I will be making the arguments about why things must change robustly and ensure the island voices are heard. I will also be meeting with key stakeholders before the meeting takes place to continue to build the evidential case for the Department of Transport.
Ferry Operators Have Failed Us by Carol Dennett. Reform UK's Deputy Leader, Richard Tice, has hit out at Cross-Solent ferry operators, calling their private equity ownership model a failed, effective monopoly that leaves islanders paying the price. Speaking during a visit to Ryde, the Reform business spokesman argued that repeated corporate buyouts incentivise owners to load cross-Solent operators with debt, driving underinvestment and steep price rises. Comparing the ferry operators to the failing water sector, Mr Tice advocated a shift towards joint venture ownership. He proposed short-term regulation followed by partial long-term private ownership, partial public ownership with good private sector management, so that you can get the best of both worlds. His comments come on a weekend when Whitelink cancelled more than 30 sailings due to mechanical issues, a disruption he stressed harms local trade. Pointing out that service breakdowns have a massive knock-on for economies like Ryde Town Centre, he criticised poor contingency planning that leaves local businesses exposed. Reform councillors James Whelan, Reuben Loke and David Llewellyn joined him on a walk from the Veterans Lounge in Ryde High Street to the Veteran Hotel on the Esplanade. Mr Tice met residents, visitors and shop owners who raised issues including business rates, VAT, parking and a lack of government support for small businesses. He was frequently recognised and greeted positively, although one lady confidently identified him as East White MP Joe Robertson. Turning to wider business pressures, Mr Tice labelled town centre decline a national emergency caused by decades of flawed planning. While praising Ryde's concentration of independent shops as amongst the best I've seen in the country, he acknowledged other island towns are struggling. He noted Reform's pledge to help high streets, including raising the VAT registration threshold from £90,000 to £150,000, and said there would be further announcements at Reform's annual conference next week on business rates, planning reform and social housing.
Southern Water singled out. Mr Tice also took aim at water providers, singling out Southern Waters as one of the worst 2 or 3 operators nationally. He said he has worked cross-party with MPs, including from the left of the Labour Party, to tackle water utility issues, though he has not yet worked directly with the island's 2 sitting MPs. On asylum policy, Mr Tice reiterated Reform's stance that people arriving illegally should be maintained, supported and processed rapidly, then deported, rather than dispersed across the country, pledging that Reform councillors would work to prevent them being housed on the island. He joked that Green Party support for a policy that asylum seekers could all go to areas with Green councillors was non-existent. They didn't seem to like it. Mr Tice also answered queries about former Rapport MP Rupert Lowe, now leader of Restore Britain, expressing confidence that common sense will prevail by the next election and that somehow the 2 parties could work together. Reform's ambitions for Isle of Wight. Councillor Whelan, leader of the Reform group on the Isle of Wight Council, welcomed the visit, saying that he and his group had very useful discussions with Mr Tice, who described himself as a frequent visitor to the very traditional, very English island, adding that he wanted to help retain that character and pledging to support the local group. Councillor Williams said a real highlight was meeting veterans and representatives from the armed forces community. As a veteran myself, supporting those who have served our country is particularly important to me. We finished the visit with some really productive discussions about the Isle of Wight, the financial pressures facing our council, and the work ahead to deliver the change residents voted for. On local political ambitions, Mr Tice was clear. We're ambitious. We want to run the council and get 2 Reform MPs elected. With Reform setting its sights so firmly on the local political map, Perhaps Joe Robertson had better hope that more people mistake him for Reform's deputy leader.
And now on to public information with the news from County Hall by Councillor Julie Jones-Evans of the Economy, Regeneration, Transport and Infrastructure Committee. The Economy, Regeneration, Transport and Infrastructure (ERTI) Committee has a wide remit, and the coming months will bring some significant decisions for the island. Transport and highways remain high on our agenda. I recently met with the Managing Director of Ringway, the parent company of Island Roads, and raised residents' concerns directly. In particular, we asked for Ringway's help in understanding and challenging the level of emergency utility works on the island, which appears significantly higher than in comparable mainland areas, and can cause considerable disruption with very little notice. While there are areas where we want to see improvement, it is also worth recognising that the island is rated green by the Department for Transport for road condition. We have begun considering one of our biggest infrastructure decisions, the replacement of the floating bridge. The final decision is scheduled for January. Alongside this, ERTI will be looking across the services within our remit at where savings can be made and additional income generated as the Council prepares for next year's budget. It is important that this isn't simply about cutting services, but also about how we can make them work better and become more sustainable, whilst supporting our economy.
There are positive stories too. Leisure continues to grow, supporting residents to be more active, improve their health and well-being, while strengthening an important council service. Tourism will also feature in our work, with the committee considering in October the Council's position on the forthcoming ballot for Visit Isle of Wight Next Destination Business Improvements District. Culture and regeneration remain important, with Sandown reaching the final 15 in the UK Town of Culture competition, providing another opportunity to demonstrate how culture can contribute to regeneration and stronger communities. The Isle of Wight Council will support the Tide Turner team as much as we can. What a moment for Sandown. Finally, devolution is moving from discussion towards delivery. The committee needs to help ensure the island is well positioned to secure future funding and investment as the new arrangements develop.
And now on to what's on for an article headlined Literary Festival Reveals Star-Studded Lineup. Tickets for the star-studded 2026 Isle of Wight Literary Festival are now on sale. Leading broadcaster Claire Balding, actress Amanda Barry, BBC newsreader Sophie Royworth, football commentator Clive Tilsley, chef and activist Hugh Fernley-Whittingstall, actress Celia Imrie and actor Larry Lamb are among the top names appearing. Mary Portas, crime writer Anne Cleeves and wine expert Helen McGinn will also feature at the festival, held at Northwood House, Cowes from October the 8th to 11th. More than 40 speakers will attend, with specialist talks covering subjects from Bob Dylan's Isle of Wight connections and the Great Rivers of Europe to military strategy and Britain's coastal heritage. Special events include Helen McGinn's wine tasting, a whisky tasting with writer Ian Buxton, the Fizz Quiz, afternoon tea with former royal butler Grant Harold, a murder mystery written by Anne Cleeves, and a musical evening with G4 performer Mike Christie. Litfest will feature demonstrations from Michelin-starred chef Chris Galvin, Great British Bake Off finalist Miranda Gore-Brown, and French patissier Eric Lanyard. Hugh Fernley-Whittingstall and Professor Tim Lang will also give talks on food and health. Write on White returns to celebrate the island's writing community with a writers' marketplace, author, information about residencies, and the launch of The Figlet Issue 6. The Festival Schools programme will incorporate every school on the island, with more than 20 children's authors attending as part of the designated Year of Reading. Tickets and further information are available at iwobserver/literary-fest.
Show of Quayside Memories. A new workshop production will bring together memories of Isle of Wight residents and preserved records of Newport's old quayside, spanning from 1900 to 1980. The show will be free to attend and is on for one night only at Quay Arts, and has been commissioned by Quay Arts and Creative Island. Quay Memories serves as part of Creative Island's Can You Hear Us programme, and it falls on the 50th anniversary of Quay Arts. To contribute your memories, a lifeline phone number has been set up by Deadman, an island firm and theatre company. Deadman's artistic director, Samuel Bosman, said, "I can't wait for the Isle of Wight to see this. I think it has the potential to be very special. It is going to be built by Isle of Wight Memories for Isle of Wight, on the Isle of Wight. On the Isle of Wight, we can feel a bit isolated or disconnected. We want people to feel connected to where they live and their identity and shared history. And we hope this production will do that, right on our doorstep and for free. Share your memories via www.hellodeadmans.com/memories or 0800 229 4257. The production is on October the 3rd, and tickets are available from www.quarryarts.org event Quayside Memories. And one more, actor in One Night Theatre tribute to Judy Garland. A one-woman show is set to celebrate the life of screen legend Judy Garland. Isle of Wight actor Hannah Emily Nixon will take to the stage at Shanklin Theatre on September the 22nd in By Myself, Alone. The show comes nearly 50 years after Judy's death. The audience will be treated to songs from her films and stories from her life, as if they were seeing a live Judy concert. The show will feature Roger Holmes on piano and special guest Chris Sinatra. Hannah, who was recently seen on island stages as Norma Desmond, and Shirley Valentine, will perform songs including The Trolley Song, I Could Go On Singing, and Over the Rainbow. Hannah will transport audiences to an era when Judy's talents shone through despite her tragic life. Tickets are available from the Shanklin Theatre box office on 01983 86800 or at shanklintheatre.com.
And now on to readers' letters, starting with a letter titled We Can Now Swim With Turds by Edward Lyon of Sandown. May I, through your excellent columns, congratulate the boss of Southern Water, Lawrence Gosden, on his wonderful work, and say how unfair I think it was to criticise the more or less doubling of his well-deserved salary. In Sandown Bay now, thanks to him and his highly efficient staff, we can now swim with the turds, which is so much more reliable than the extremely rare opportunity of swimming with dolphins. We can drink urine, such a change from water, whenever a wave hits us in the face, and, if we are lucky, prolong our holiday with time off work with an eye or ear infection or gastrointestinal illness. Keep up the good work. Enjoy your own family holidays on safe beaches abroad.
The Missing Handyman. Dear Editor, I have been on the island for 7 years and I am very disillusioned with workmen and them not showing up for appointments. They say they will come and check what the job is and give a quote, leading to a job being carried out, but I have been let down so often I am in despair. There must be good tradesmen or even handymen around, but where? If a job is too small, they're not interested. I've had some come and do a job which is substandard, but they still expect to be paid. I've waited in all day, but to no avail, as the person hasn't bothered to turn up or even text or phone. Why? It is all very confusing and disappointing. Mrs. J. Baker, Newport. And
Water everywhere. Dear Editor, I am given to understand by islanders that, at one time, there were 4 reservoirs on this island. In the dash for cash, they were all sold off, presumably by the water company, or could it have been the council at that time, for development. I am told there is still a large hole left behind Ravel's Lane in Sandown, which was one of these reservoirs. Has any investigation taken place to find out whether this could be brought up to scratch and put to use? Now this water company wants us to pay for some scheme which I believe has not been tried and tested. If it has, perhaps Southern Water could tell us where else in the world has such a system. Since the decision to sell off the island's reservoirs was taken, why should we trust Southern Water to put this new idea into practice with us as the guinea pigs? I am given to understand that they cannot guarantee to remove all harmful residues like drugs and chemicals. If it means 1 or more reservoirs need to be built on this island, I would rather my water rates be used for that. Alternatively, why not look at the German rainwater retrieval systems that are installed and harnessed by households and businesses? By J. Bealby of Yaverland.
from Franwell, Bembridge. Older people are again excluded. There has been repeated correspondence about the transfer of matters to online only, making doctor's appointments, for example. As a result, many older people are compromised or excluded because they do not have a computer. Now I have come upon yet another example. I am a blue badge holder and I travel to St. Mary's Hospital especially to update my annual vehicle permit. This is an exercise that in the past required your report to the reception desk. A helpful member of staff typed the blue badge details into a program and recorded the update. She then handed you a small vehicle permit showing the vehicle registration and the valid date. It took less than 5 minutes. Simple, quick, efficient, but not anymore. Oh dear me, no. I'm very sorry, she said, but this has to be done online. I was handed a leaflet with instructions which include a note saying approval can take up to 48 hours. My wasted journey to Newport was of no concern. Not the receptionist's fault, of course. However, once again, those of more mature years are marginalized as many do not have computers. I do have a computer and I am passably competent. Can I do this exercise? No, I cannot. Neither can my family, so far. As I wait to resolve my problem, I am not now authorized to park at St. Mary's. A formal complaint has been raised by my daughter, and so we wait. Just not good enough and beyond understanding.
And it's goodbye from Sam.
And Ursula.
The BBC In Touch programme follows, and the scaffolding news follows that.
Hello. Over the past few days, the airwaves have been full of the voices of young people contemplating their exam results. And for those who got grades they wanted, it's the university life that lies ahead. On today's In Touch, we're concentrating on blind and partially sighted students and what they need to know to make the most of the opportunities that await them. For most youngsters, blind or sighted, it's a pretty big step this, probably living away from home for the first time, different, more self-reliant ways of working, leaving old friends, making new ones. But for visually impaired students in particular, there are some added dimensions. Getting all your learning materials in an accessible format and on time, coping with teachers who may have no knowledge of what you need from them, and over the first few weeks, physically navigating the kind of complicated environment that makes up most uni campuses. So we brought together a panel of people who can at least scratch the surface for you and perhaps give you a few hints which you might otherwise have to spend the first couple of terms figuring out for yourselves. So let's meet our panel. Nicole Bassett, who's a Student Support Services Manager at the Thomas Pocklington Trust. Simon Morris, he's Head of Disability Support at the University of Leeds, and he's trustee of Look UK, which provides mentoring services for young visually impaired people. And Caris Hall, she graduated last year and who, amongst other things, changed courses in midstream. So we may talk about that. And we're also joined by someone who will hopefully find all this information helpful, Tom Ashforth. Tom is about to start a computer science degree at Sheffield Hallam. Well, welcome to you all. I'd like to get our first pearl of wisdom from our recent graduate. Caris, if you were back in this situation, starting uni for the first time and knowing what you know now, what would be your key bit of advice on what to do with this month before you start? You know, once you'd stopped whooping with delight that you'd actually got a place.
I think I would probably have been a bit more sort of forward thinking in terms of resources, DSA, obviously.
That's the disability student allowance.
Exactly,
Yeah.
yes. So with the companies that provide the various different supports within that, I would have been a little bit more solid in constantly getting in touch with those companies to ensure that sooner rather than later that support would be in place.
So was it later in your case? Did you have to wait to get your grant?
Yeah, both times around it was, even though the second time round I was quite, forward thinking with it. That's why I always would say that as my first piece of advice. You can't do too much in terms of that. For sure.
Let's bring in Nicole on that straight away. Looking at the financial help available, DSA, Disabled Students Allowance, how common experience is that Caris had that, she had to wait? And what's the best thing to do if you find yourself not actually getting the money that you're entitled to?
Yes, so I would agree with Caris in the sense of applying as soon as possible is absolutely the main advice. And you can apply from kind of April, May this year. Obviously, if you've just got your results and you haven't, don't panic. But what I would say is to get that application in if you are a student, because the Disabled Students Allowance can give you a whole host of really amazing support. So it funds things like laptop with assistive technology, Braille devices, all sorts of equipment. You can also get support workers to help you too. So that's things like navigating around the campus. It can be a vision impairment specialist as well that you can receive. And you can also get taxi allowance and printing allowance too. So it really is so vital as one of the pieces of the puzzle, I suppose, in making sure that you get everything that you need for university.
Tom, have you got your DSA sorted out?
Yeah, actually, it was actually straightforward for myself. As you've mentioned, Caris got it late. I actually got mine with probably in a week of getting my results. I've not received the equipment as of yet, but I've received the entitlement to say what I will be receiving.
And perhaps we should say, maybe Simon, sometimes the equipment takes longer than it should, even if you have got your disabled student allowance.
Absolutely. And Disabled Students Allowance, covers a lot of the specialised support, but universities come in different shapes and sizes. But what we all want to do within universities is for students to have a positive experience. So I think if you're in a position where you might have applied for Disabled Students Allowances late, or maybe your equipment hasn't come, it's really important that you're engaging with your university and talking to the specialised service within that university, because there might be things that they can do. There might be some loan equipment they can offer you. There might be some stopgaps. So I think if you are in that position where things are late, maybe equipment hasn't arrived, maybe the equipment that's come isn't quite what you expected, absolutely don't panic. The key bit of information here is to keep talking to your university, keep asking lots of questions. You know, we are very much set up in order to support students through this process. Most of the time, something they've never done before.
I want to stay with you on this, Simon, because this question of talking to your lecturers, talking to people in the university, how easy is that to do? I mean, for a start, is there any sense in trying to do it before you actually go to university? I mean, here we are towards the end of August, but, you know, won't they all be on holiday and skiing and doing things like that?
I wish, Peter, I wish we were. No, the summer is one of our busiest times. And I think that, as I say, universities come in very different shapes and sizes. Support and support services will look and feel very different from university to university. What we all have in common is the fact that we invest a lot of time and resource into those services. So normally your first point of call would be the student support service, or perhaps a disability services like mine, where you would start having those conversations about things that you need. So just for example, we make contact with students, all of our applicants, in April. So we're trying to have those conversations as early as possible, because it's us that would help you communicate with your lecturers and talk to lecturers about the things that you need.
So I want to be absolutely clear about this. You wouldn't be thought of being pushy or a nuisance if you tried to contact a lecturer before October?
Absolutely not. So what I would suggest is that students don't try and contact individual lecturers, because you'll have multiple people. Talk to the university's specialist student support service or disability services, which whatever that's called in your particular institution you're going to. Talk to them as early as you possibly can, because it's been very likely that the support that you've had previously may not translate across into higher education, because you're going to a very different environment. So have those conversations as early as you possibly can, and keep asking.
Well, can I ask Caris, because you've been there and done that, would you have done that, and did you try and do it, and did it work?
Yes, absolutely. I was in a lot of close contact, like Simon says, with the disability services of my university. Unfortunately, my university was quite small, so it meant that actually the support was quite bespoke in a way that, you know, you're not having to maybe be passed from pillar to post of different people within the departments and things, which was lovely. And then secondary, like, because the course particularly that I did was quite small scale, so I actually did reach out to a couple of my lecturers before starting, because you might come across a lot of lecturers who have never potentially even interacted with a blind person before. And so by you opening up that line of communication, it allows not just you to ask them questions, but them to ask you questions about how you might learn, because they want to do the best for you. You know, that's what they're there to do. And I think a lot of lecturers will be very curious. I know from experience, my lecturers had said to me, you know, it's so great that you're very open and honest with us, because we didn't really know how to approach you. It's brilliant that we now know that. But what I always say to them is, you know, every blind person is very different, and that's why it's important for you as the visually impaired person to make that contact, for sure.
Simon, would you agree with that? I'm just wondering whether all lecturers would be happy about being told how to relate to their students, even if they are visually impaired.
I think it's really important, as Caris has said, to have those open conversations. And you can do that alongside your university's disability services. So, you know, you don't have to go and do it on your own. If you feel confident to do it on your own, then that's absolutely fine. What I would go back to is universities want you to have a good experience, and they want you to succeed on your course. So I think lecturers are really keen for you to have a conversation with them about how they can help you. And sometimes that might be a bit of a meeting in the middle about the things that you need and what they can provide. You know, there might be some things that they can't necessarily do just through the nature of the course, but it's about having that open conversation and being ready and really receptive to looking at how you can work together with them.
I want to bring in Tom, because I think you've got a question about navigation. I think getting around campuses, because I said how complicated they can be. What's on your mind about this?
As you mentioned, like navigation of like lecturers, getting to know you, but how, and this is coming to you, Caris, how would you on a day-to-day get from door to door and around the campus
Actually, just before we bring Caris in on that, I wanted to go to Nicole because you mentioned this navigation. You suggested this was something that was direct help. Can you just explain what there is?
Yes, so through the Disabled Students Allowance, there's a couple of support workers that you could talk to them about if you did think that that was the right thing that you needed. So the first is mobility training, which will be a specialist that will help you learn the routes around campus, so where your lectures are, then be able to do that independently. And then the second is through sighted guidance. So if you do need somebody to go to the different lectures with and make sure you find the right rooms, that can also be offered too. So there are kind of different, what they call in DSA terms, non-medical help workers, but really are kind of support workers to support you with that.
How long would that take to do that? I mean, if people are hearing that now, could they get that set up for when they're at university? First.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So that's through the Disabled Students Allowance application, and you would go to what's called a needs assessment. And in that needs assessment, you would have that chat about those different support workers and what your plan is for getting to and from university and also around the campus. One thing to mention as well, actually, is if you are living at university halls or outside of the campus, DSA can also consider that travel aspect too. So they might pay, for example, for taxi services for you as well.
Can I ask, Caris, Tom was going to ask you, so I'll ask you now. Did you use this and was navigation a problem early on?
Yeah, there was a few teething problems, but generally speaking, I mean, the sighted guide help is actually brilliant. It's like gold dust because, you know, it gives you that peace of mind, really. I think we all would like to be independent and try and figure it out ourselves. But when you're a little bit stressed, especially in new environments, I think it's great to have that on call, really. And that was something I was very fortunate with, that my university were my named company on my DSA grant. So that was the thing that got set up first. And that was literally life-saving, really. And my disability services at the university actually filled those little gaps in whilst I was waiting for mobility support, because it took about 3 or 4 months for mobility support to actually get put in place. So I had a couple of sessions with my disability advisor who just gave me a little bit of an idea of what the campus looked like, and then going from that, I actually used, because you get a lot of sighted guide hours, I used some of that time with my sighted guide also to walk routes with me, because I know the sort of skills, it's just knowing where things are.
Is that something you would do, Tom? Do you need as much as that or a bit less, or what? How does that strike you?
Yeah, that's really informative. Thank you very much to both of you. As you said, as I have a non-medical assistant type thing, but it's great. I know I can tap into it for also mobility and navigational support.
I want to talk a bit about the social side, because what you're all saying about from the actual, you know, getting equipment, contact with lecturers, it's all quite comforting. I'm going to go back to Caris on this. How do you think someone can make the most of the social side? For example, let's just start with Freshers Week, which can be potentially tricky for visually impaired students, making new friends, finding out what's going on and where. It's harder to take the initiative, isn't it, in starting conversations?
Yeah, absolutely. I think it was probably, I'd say both times around, Freshers was probably the most overwhelming. It's just so environmentally sort of sensory as well. You know, there's a lot happening, and obviously we don't have that visual cue in the same way everyone else does. And actually a lot of these events, you don't actually have the hearing either, because it's so loud. There's a lot of bodies.
A lot of music.
Exactly, navigating that. But actually, I think the thing I would say is you'll find there's a lot of groups on things like Facebook, on Discord. If you can get yourself into a couple of them and start having conversations with people, then you've got almost like a touch point when you actually get there. And actually we have that added element of I think that overwhelm, but actually everyone there is going to be quite overwhelmed as well. And I think sometimes if you do sort of need a bit of help, sometimes it's easier to break the ice in a weird way, to say, I'm really sorry, would you mind if I take your arm and we go here? And it actually helps them, because they've got a reason then to talk to you and engage with you. And, you know, I made a lot of my closest friends just purely because I needed help just going from A to B somewhere very quickly. And then we got, you know, when you're hanging on someone's arm, you get talking about things. And that is a very uncomfortable feeling to begin with. But then the more you do it, the more it gets easier.
Sure. Tom, sorry, do you want to comment on that? Is that something that you would be comfortable doing?
Yeah, I'll probably say yes. So I'll give a bit of context. I'm moving into halls in the matter of weeks before I start university. I've already made contact with my flatmates and just said, right, I'm blind if you see me with a cane. come and speak to me, come and give me help. The thing about like asking for like sighted guidance, I would do that like day to day anyway. So I'm a very talkative person.
That's very encouraging. Not everybody can do that, but it's very interesting that you've actually been as upfront as that. The interesting thing about this is it's all very well us giving advice now, but often when you want the help is when you're actually there and you can see this is the problem. I want to ask Nicole and Simon what your organisations can actually do directly when people are on the spot. Nicole, starting with you, I mean, what role does the trust play in this? Could somebody come to you and say, I'm struggling, I want to know this or that, whatever it happens to be?
Yes, absolutely. So I manage our education advice service, and that is basically what we're here for. So we offer advice and guidance for any students about to enter university, already in university. And I guess the key thing for contacting us is there's no question too big or too small. So if it literally is just, how do I submit this application to DSA, we're here. But it's also around, say, you might already be in your second year of uni and experiencing some access issues or just kind of not really getting exactly what you think you should be getting. And if you do need that kind of extra support in talking to your university, in knowing kind of what you need to ask for, that's really what we're here for as well.
And Simon, Look UK, for whom you're a trustee, they provide a student mentoring programme. Just tell us a bit about that and how people could access it and whether they could do it at this stage, even if they've not been a part of that.
Absolutely, they can do that. They can do that right now. And contacting Look UK and getting involved in the mentoring is about building confidence. And I think it's about working with a mentor to talk through the kinds of things which you are maybe concerned about, or the things that once you're there are happening around you, and about looking to build those long-term strategies and working with a mentor who can maybe challenge you a little bit, and about maybe asking you some questions to really think through your perception of what's happening, and then maybe just looking to see how you might resolve those things for yourself. Going to university is very much about learning how to advocate for yourself. And at Look, what we want to do is support people in developing those long-term strategies. Maybe you've got to university and you thought you were full of confidence and it's all going to be fine. Maybe it's not quite what you thought it was going to be. There's no reason why you can't then get in touch with Look and get paired up with a mentor.
Well, that seems a good positive note on which to stop as we've run out of time. This is a topic where we'd particularly welcome listeners' comments, perhaps from your past experience or indeed any advice that you want to give for visually impaired students. You can email in touch at bbc.co.uk or you can leave voice messages on 0161 836 1338. Nicole Bassett, Simon Morris, Caris Hall, Tom Ashforth, thank you all very much. And Tom, best of luck with your degree. Hope some of that's been helpful. From me, Peter White, producer Beth Hemmings, goodbye.
Scaffolding and Skips news for the week commencing 31st of August 2026. In the Newport area, 62 St James Street, Roach Pittis 60 to 66 Lugley Street, 55 New Street, 21 St James Street, 18 Crocker Street, Nabab Kitchen 84 St James Street, 52 St James Street.
In the Ryde area, Morrison's Daily, Union Street, 53 Union Street, 5 Union Street, NatWest Bank, St Thomas Square, 3 Union Street, Beachcomber, opposite the Seaview Beach Shop, Seaview.
Cowes and East Cowes area, the Parade Public Toilets, Bath Road, Eramew Court, Bridge Road, 29 Cross Street, 2 Terminus Road. Cowes and East Cowes area skips, 55 Newport Road, Northwood.
Ventnor area, Ventnor Youth Centre, Victoria Street, Rose Inn, Pearce Street, 9 Spring Hill, and Ventnor area skips, 18 Ocean View Road.
In the Sandown area, 27 High Street. Alveston Farmhouse, Main Road, Alveston. Old Town Hall, High Street, Brading.
Shanklin area, 74 Regent Street.
Totland area, Dolphin Cottage, Totland Bay.
And Yarmouth area, Wheatsheaf Lane, Quay Street.